Go downstairs, Meg. I'm busy. Doing, a review or something? Oh, the creator. She had me read quite a few stories for today's review. I did 2 episodes today, in fact. I haven't started this episode yet because I just finished reading what you wanted me to read. But I'm about to start on it. So, run along. Go downstairs. Maybe you should take a small break before you go on with the review, Sue. Meg, I'll be down when I'm done doing the review. So go downstairs. I'll see you shortly. I think it would be a good idea, Sue, if you just took a small break before you did anything else. You have got to be one of the most infuriatingly stubborn people I've ever met. Go downstairs. You're not needed up here. Susan, you're clearly upset. Maybe you should be the one that goes downstairs. Make some tea or something. I'll do the review for you. You'll do the review, you say? Yes, I will. Because you're clearly not fine right now. I am perfectly fine! No, you're not perfectly fine. You're being very erratic. You're yelling. Go downstairs, Susan. I'll take care of this. You will not be reading any of these stories. In fact, when I do make this episode, you won't even be watching it, because it's very disturbing. Go downstairs. I will not ask you again, Susan. Go downstairs. I'm staying up here and I'm reviewing these stories. Susan! Well, she doesn't have a creepy-ass look on her face this time around, so I think it's safe to say that I did it right. I think I made the right decision. I may regret it when she wakes up, but I think I made the right decision. Creator. Fuck you. That's all I'm gonna say, is fuck you. Well, I'll start with the stupid Mylokitty stories and save that guy's crap for last. Hello! I see that the camera's on, so you just spied. What a shock. You're probably like, oh, where's Susan? Well, no, you're not saying where's Susan because you guys fucking spied. The FanFic Critic Fanfic Clusterfuck. Yes, we're going to be looking at quite a few fanfics about, you know, me and Susan. Because we're fictional characters. So that means you guys can write as many stories as you want about us. Even though we have feelings and we get affected by these stories. Susan was clearly affected by one story in particular. So, There are two authors on fanfiction.net that have been consistently writing stories about me and Susan. Mylokitty is one of them, and x.Rube.x, or just Rube, is the other person. We're going to be going over the Mylokitty stories. Now, this is going to be a different episode, obviously. The creator's original intention was to have Susan do all this, and for some reason the creator didn't think that Susan might react badly, which she clearly did. I'm assuming that when she was charging at me, she was going to try to knock me out, but I beat her to the punch. Don't want to go through that again, though, because, But I think I made the right decision. And I think I was successful with the Vulcan Finch, because she does look like she's asleep. So, didn't have a creepy look on her face like she did the last time. But if for some reason she is paralyzed and she can hear what I'm saying, I'm sorry, but you didn't give me a choice. It was either me or you, and I was quicker. So there. Love you. Even though you can be scary sometimes. So, we might as well start with the elephant in the room. Mylokitty reposted the Fanfic Critic and Her Vagina of Wonders. This rename is called The Former Fanfic Critic and Her Vagina of Wonders. There's really not much to say about this story. It's literally the exact same story that I had read years ago. I went and I watched my old video of it, and I even found the adult fanfiction.net version of this story, and it's practically the same story. The only difference really is that Mylokitty added a bunch of typos. Like, deliberately added typos. She explains who the frick Dwarf Martin is supposed to be. Dwarf Martin is supposed to be Archangel Assassin. It's like, okay, but where did you get the name Dwarf Martin from? That makes no sense. And also, Mylokitty name-dropped Caddy and Rorschach, who are unfortunately not with us anymore, but she name-dropped them in this story. But aside from that, the story is more or less the same. So, Sue was wrong about the relationship between me and her in this story. She kept saying, like, in her other videos, that, you know, it was an abusive relationship in this story, and that it wasn't consensual with her shoving the zucchini up my you-know-what. But in this story, it was consensual. I mean, she was still very rough about it, but it's Mylokitty, what do you expect? I think the reason why Susan got confused was because in the sequel story, the Boobs of Terror, we were kind of rare with each other in that story, so I think she just assumed that that's how we were in this story. I digress. You got to keep in mind, the last time I had read this story was like over a decade ago. Susan never read it, even though Lesbian Jesus did send her an email about it, but I had also sent Susan a bunch of emails warning her not to read it. I think she attempted to watch my video back then, but then she noped her way out when she saw what the title of the story was. And, you know, obviously she read the one about her boobs, and yeah, but... So, Vagina of Wonders, not really much to say on it. So, the next story that Mylokitty did after the reflection of her eyes was a fanfiction smoothie, which, this story is a stupid short story. It's only like 396 words. And it's about Susan having sexual relations with a blender. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. And then, the next story that Mylokitty did is No Place for Paper Bags. This is like, I would say her longest story. Okay, no, it's not the longest. Susan's burping problem is the longest story, but this is like the second longest. It's over 2,000 words. And it's called No Place for Paper Bags. And the summary for this one is, there's only thing Susan hates more than fanfiction, paper bags. One day she takes her hatred to the next level. This story was really stupid too. This story was actually about me. Because a while back I had sent Susan a message. We were both running errands one day. She went to the dump and I went to go grocery shopping, and I got home before her. And the bag that I had my groceries in ripped at the top, and I almost lost the bag of groceries, which had eggs in it, but thankfully they didn't get damaged. So I had sent Susan a message about why I hate paper bags. And for some reason, the freaking creator decided to post this message that I had sent to Susan on the YouTube channel. Susan found out about it and immediately removed the video, but the video was up long enough for Mylokitty to write this story, and Mylokitty had to be about Susan instead of me. And it's pretty much this thing where Susan's like against paper bags and she teams up with some guy named John, who I think, I'm just trying to scroll and find out who he is. I think he's supposed to be, he might be like Comics Nix or something. I don't know. I know he's like, I think he's supposed to be like a fan fiction writer from the past. I'm just trying to see what they call him. Oh, yes, it is supposed to be Comics Nix. So she teams up with Comics Nix, and then they imply that they're going to go and go against Eurocat Industries or something stupid like that. But yeah, pretty much the story is about Susan being against paper bags and making a movement against it. And that's pretty much all for the Mylokitty stories. Now, let's go on to Rube. Rube, 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 Rube. Dude. 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 Okay, we're gonna save the clusterfuck of what the fuckery for last. So, since Susan had already reviewed The Uneasy Path of Love and fanfiction The Hangovers, Rube has been quite a busy little bee. So he has written since then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 one-shots. 5. So the first one is called And If I Only Could. It's pretty much from Susan's point of view, and she's reflecting on her past actions as she's watching me mow the lawn. And it's just her, like, feeling bad about the whole phase pistol incident. It's her reflecting on incidences that happened, you know, between us since then. Like, one of the things was me finding out about her murdering Earl, and how the fanfic described how angry I was so freaking hilarious. It's like, oh, Meg was so mad that you looked like an enraged lion. I am angry. And she was clenching her fist so tightly that her hands were bleeding. No, that did not happen. I mean, kudos for creativity there, but dude, pacing around like an enraged lion, clenching my fist so tightly that my hands were bleeding. No. But, you know, that story, it was okay. I will admit that, you know, most of this guy's stories are okay, if you ignore that they're about me and Sue. So the next story that he wrote, The Aftermath of a Haircut, was really stupid. This one was a short one. It was only like 700 words. And it takes place after the Chippendale Rescue Rangers episode that Susan did. So, long story short, the day that Susan did that episode, I bought this like weird seen on TV device that helps with like you cutting your own hair so you don't have to go to a salon. So I tried it out and I was successful. So, you know, I went to go, you know, show Susan, and Susan's hair was different looking, and I realized that it was because of me. So I panicked and I teleported my ass out of the room. And, you know, after she did the review, I did apologize, but, you know, she said it was okay and that, you know, we'll just have to discuss about haircuts in the future and whatnot because, you know, us being played by the same person, and now Susan's doing the web show, we're going to look more like than we normally would. Because, you know, throughout the years we've had differing hairstyles, but now that we're on the internet again, we're now stuck looking practically the same, so... Because in your reality, we're played by one person, but in our reality, we are two separate people, so there's that. So this story was just... What happens in this story is that Susan decides to get revenge on me. And how she gets revenge on me is that she tackles me to the ground and tickles me. Uh-huh. Okay. Yes. I think this fanfic would have worked better if it was part of a bigger fanfic and this was just like a scene in the fanfic, because it just felt like it was a random scene. It didn't feel like its own separate story. It just felt like it was in the middle of another story. And the author's like, oh, I'm trying out fluff and stuff. It's like, it just didn't work. It was silly. So the next story that Rube does here is called The Eyes. This story is from my point of view. And this story takes place after I decided to take over the web show the last time and do the Spanish Fly Invasion of Bikini Bottom chapters 2 and 3. So pretty much this story is just my point of view. It's me, you know, like hyper-focusing on Susan's eyes and her knocking me out. And then I have a nightmare about the phase pistol incident. And like, it feels like I'm getting shot all over again. I wake up to Susan, like, trying to figure out what's wrong and trying to help me, and then I'm reassuring her that I'm okay, and, yeah, and then later on, we have a heart-to-heart, we talk after I wake up again, and then we make love in the end, and that's pretty much what that story was. It was, I mean, I will admit it was well-written, but again, it's like, can you stop? Why? And then the next story he does, To Temper One's Mind, that story is also about this same incident, but this time it's from Susan's point of view. It's like, dude, you could have just had these both be one story. Have it be a 2-chapter story. That would have made more sense than having it be 2 one-shots. I don't know. So I guess the reason why he wrote this story was because he was inspired by, you know, Susan mentioning in one of the episodes about the, you know, her talking to the creator to prevent the creator from doing something to me, and the creator was like, oh, you have to read these Golden Girl stories. That's pretty much what this story was. Again, we make love in the story, and it's over, yeah, I guess it's not too over the top for sex scenes, but still. And now, the final story. The story that caused Susan to, An Evening to Remember. An Evening to Remember. I'm just going to read the summary of this story, so you guys get an idea. After the tense encounter that ended with Susan holding the straight blade up to Meg's throat, Susan takes it upon herself to prove to Meg that she still loves her. The problem is, the fanfic critic is still in the odd state of mind that she was in when Meg had first returned home from work, and her method of proving her love is rough and forceful. Trigger warning! Contains rape! Contains rape! What the... What is with you guys in writing stories about me being raped? For starters, why? Stop it. It was weird back then and it's weird now. Ugh. And secondly, the sex scenes that happen in this story. Okay, where do I begin? So the first one involves me sitting back on the bed, laying back. It describes Susan tearing off my clothing. And she's not getting undressed. In fact, she presses herself up against me. So she's like described wearing denim jeans. And she says that she's going to be rough about it because of my stubbornness from earlier that needs to be addressed. Okay, for starters, you're contradicting what you're saying in this story, Rube, because you're like, oh, well, Susan wants to prove her love to Meg. And how exactly is having rough sex with me proving love? I mean, they stress that Susan's not in her right mind in this story, but still, come on. So pretty much the first sex scene is just Susan grinding up against me. And even though my character is describing this as not being pleasant, somehow I'm orgasming several times because of this. Yeah, fucking right. And at one point, it's described that Susan has such a tight grip on my wrist that my hands are numb. So yes, that was the first sex scene. And there's several sex scenes. So the second sex scene, I would say, was the most tame one. It's just describing as, you know, typical eating out. So I guess that wasn't too bad. But the third sex scene, okay, so. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. So, the third sex scene involves this. This being shoved. I mean, they say it's folded up in the story, but that still would not feel good no matter which end you would put in. And why the fuck would... You don't shove razor blades up people's crotches! My fucking God! So, Rube, honey, sweetie, don't write stories like this, please, and thank you. Especially if you don't know shit about women anatomy. Because I can guarantee that this would not feel good being shoved up your fucking crotch! Why don't you buy your own replica blade, lube it up and shove it up your butt, and then get back to me and tell me how it feels? I highly doubt it would feel good. I mean, this would destroy your insides. I mean, it doesn't matter which end you put in. It would hurt no matter what. You have this pointy thing here, and then you have this. What the fuck is wrong with you? So yes, that was the Fanfic Critic Fanfic Clusterfuck story. My ratings for them. Well, the Mylokitty stories are really bad, but they're not supposed to be taken seriously. They're supposed to be troll fics, so there's that. Rube, on the other hand, your stories are supposed to be taken seriously, and although they're kind of weird, for the most part, they were okay. And then you wrote this, An Evening to Remember. More like a fanfic I want to forget. What the fuck? Dude, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? So yeah, I wouldn't recommend any of these stories. I wouldn't. No. Well, thank you all for watching today's episode of Fanfic Critic. You guys will see Susan next time. I assure you, you definitely will. And, she'll see you all in the next episode. Please be sure to leave a like and leave a comment. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. She would appreciate it. By a lot. I'll see you in one of these episodes one of these days. Again, don't think I'm going to make a habit of doing these episodes for Susan. Today was a very special circumstance. So, I'll see y'all next time. Or she'll see y'all next time. Until then, toodles. Don't worry. You did it correctly. Okay, good. How long were you awake for? I was awake long enough to know what you were doing. Just decided to keep my eyes closed so I didn't, you know, spook you. Alright. Sue, I am sorry that you know. I'm not mad. I'm glad that you did what you did. I was acting very erratic, and I'm sorry about charging at you like that. The irony is that the intention there was that I was gonna use the Vulcan pinch on you, but you beat me to it. Good reflexes. You did well. It's probably for the best that I didn't actually do it because because of how angry I was, I might have accidentally done it too hard, so. Are you gonna be okay? Yeah, I'll be fine. Those stories were, yeah. That last one especially was disturbing like you had said, but I'll be fine. What about you? I'll be fine. I don't know what the fuck the creator was thinking having you read all of these freaking stories. I mean, why? I mean, she didn't want me to read them all out loud, I'll give her that. But I would have been better off with not having to read them at all, especially that last one. Yeah. The camera was on when I had finished reading the stories. I didn't turn it on, but the camera was on, so I have a sneaking suspicion that the web show spied. Oh, I'm sure it did. I'm sure it bloody did. Yeah, I probably could have been better about summarizing each of the stories, but, I mean, she wanted you to do so many stories today. And then when I got to that last one, I mean, what else was there really to say about it? I mean, seriously, what was there really to say? It was just... Well, you did well, from what I heard. Handled it better than I did. But I should have listened to you when you had first come home. I should have, you know, should have taken a step away from it instead of insisting on it. My attitude was I just wanted to get it done and over with. But I am sorry, Meg. No worries, Sue. You didn't do any harm. And, you know, I can relate. You know, when I used to be the fanfic critic, I had plenty of moments where you were trying to tell me not to do something and I did it anyway, so I get it. Okay, I do get it. You don't have to worry. I'll make a pot of tea. I think I'll do us both some good. And I'll make us some dinner, alright? Thanks, Sue. I'd appreciate that. Well, actually, I don't think I turned the camera off yet, so maybe they weren't spying. I don't know.